recognize our visitors way back on the couch. And Mr. Severson, some thank yous and congratulations.
Just to our coaches and advisors for their hard work and dedication. And then we had our homecoming court. This year, king was Casey Everson, our queen was Hannah Whelan. Our king candidates were Bronson Haugen, Kate Piatz, and Ethan Barkley. And the queen candidates were Bailey Anderson, Trendy Faber, and Serena Mullen. And then the BCN homecoming court for the staff was King Daniel Tomaszewski and Queen Tori Enstead. And the king candidates were Nate Purcell, Bud Krupp, Stacy Schaefer. Queen candidates were Danielle Bossy, Alicia Broughton, and Kelly Scott.
Thank you. Move to agenda. Is there any additions?
Do you want the policies that we're gonna, because we had the policy committee update, do you want the 3 policies that need work?
She just sent them
Yeah.
today, so we're gonna put them on the next meeting so people can read
Okay.
them.
Okay. No additions?
Nope.
Okay. Then we'll move to consent agenda, which is your minutes, bills, and financial reports. Anybody has any questions there?
Curious,
I have one, but I don't know.
on, you know, when you send out, now we get our monthly bills, it says amount spent each month, but yet when you go to that other little sheet that shows monthly expenses, there's quite a disproportionate amount in there. Is that,
You'll have to show me which sheets you're talking about exactly, but the report that you get for the bills is as of the day before the meeting. There's a few bills that get ran at the end of the month for Cass County Electric and a couple of miscellaneous bills that are due by the first of the month. That don't come in time for most meetings.
but when it shows all that, does it display, those are just our approved bills, right? There's regular payroll and all that other that go into
The
the monthly
payroll and whatever
expenses that
shows
don't
up on the
show.
expenditure report. It would be included in those chart of accounts under like the 100 object code. So like if you look at so like if you look at library or elementary or any of them, it's always the 110, 130s, and the 210, 211, 220s. Any of the 100 or 200 3-digit numbers at the end are all payroll-related expenses.
Okay,
Does that answer your question?
well, kind of, because it just was looking, we get,
I mean, I can't report to you at a public meeting specific payroll information.
no, that's all right, I just looked at, we get like, at the end of the month, we get that sheet
Yep,
right there.
That is for the month prior. So that's the total for everything for September. There would be no changes to those numbers.
Right, and I understand that, but when I go back to the September one,
Yeah, because
and we
this-
spent like 130,000 that we approved, the rest of that's payroll and,
there's payroll, and then there's also, like I said, a few Cass County Electrics or Otter Tail bills that get ran at the very end of the month. I think there's 4 bills that I usually run at the end of the month.
okay, that's all.
I have one comment too, just to touch base on what we talked about before with ND Fit and the question about how that was gonna happen. So they officially decided that it will come out the first of the month, so it will display on all of your reports. So it should be, this time it's the first item on the bills report. So that shouldn't be a concern going forward. And if you want us to look at it like closer, we can sit down and do that too.
Yeah, no, I think I got it figured out now.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any questions? Not,
I make a motion
okay.
to approve.
Consent agenda.
One second.
Roll call, Lindsay?
Rob?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Brett?
Yes,
Lee?
Yes.
Okay, committee reports, nothing, President, Career and Tech. We met again many times here lately. At the center of the greenhouse is, the frame's about 90% up as of yesterday when I was up there. We've been working on our plan, which is kind of limbo. I do have the plan for what we've been working at the vocational center. anybody wants to look at that or talk about it. We've talked about some of the meetings I had with Valley City Public. We've discussed some of that, talking about the CTE grant that's out there. And we asked them to have something back to us in November, which everybody's gonna have to have something back for that in November. The Academy Pathway, what we're piloting, has 18 kids in it. They're still seeing how that's working out. We're still doing some research on that. House, like I said, last time I had Michelle say, we did do an on-site because couldn't get the infrastructure and everything in time, so we've worked with either building it at the center or a sold house, and we do have one that's sold, so that's already started. We're working on a house that's gonna be built at the center, not on-site. We just didn't get the infrastructure that, he had a lot of other things he wanted to get in. He's working on an apartment, all kinds of street projects. They just didn't get the infrastructure in to do on-site this year, so, but we're still building a house. Like I say, the grant application that CTE is looking for, we've tabled. We also are the fiscal for the adult ed portion of the programs at the vocational in Jamestown. And we did have a resignation there, so we're gonna look to how to refill that position in Jamestown. Say we've had a lot of different meetings. If you want any other questions on sites that what we've been working on here, I've got the 3D drawings of what we were looking at there. And kind of on hold. We did like I said, last month, there was kind of tabled where we are for enrollments up there. It's hard to gauge because of last year with not as many up there with the COVID, but our total student units, so not kids, but I mean, if we talk units, might be, one kid might take a couple classes, so we go by total student units. We're up 100 from where we were last year. In our reimbursement, which we were down last year from and budgeting wise, from what we budgeted, so our revenue is gonna be a little better. We're 4% better in ag, and we're 8% better in health careers. So we got 12% more reimbursement than we have budgeted for. So that's what we were concerned about with some of the IT numbers and where they were at budget-wise. So if you have any questions on the plan that we worked on, you can talk to me later. We did and I say we've got the house thing basically sold. We worked up a contract for that, so we're held harmless on our end. If it doesn't go through, we're covered on, because we didn't budget for anything because we thought it was going to be on-site with different entities. So, but we're all good to go there. So, if there's any questions there, or if you want to look at this, we can afterwards. Or whatever. So, turn it over to Vets Technology.
I don't have any large items to report. I'm gonna be going to E-rate training, this week and looking at some equipment that is needed for our building that we can use E-rate dollars for, specifically switches and exploring, the replacement of switches, which we've allocated money for. Working at the ATL Tech Conference next week, there's some Power School trainings that are coming up. Our teachers are weekly doing Ed Chat weekly with me on Wednesdays at noon, and we're reviewing the ISTE standards that we have in our tech plan, because we have reviewed those for a couple of years now, so we're working our way through those different standards weekly. And yeah, just kind of day-to-day business. Mrs. Bussey keeps me busy sending me policies to update on the website almost every day, so.
When I get a chance.
Not a lot of big news. Everything's just going really smooth, and I don't have a lot of fire right now, which is good.
Okay, good. Any questions?
I got a question. My daughter stayed home as a close contact a couple weeks ago from COVID, and it was like the second day she was doing all of her classes online. So are the teachers always giving that option to students? I mean, are they always having, because I thought that was pretty awesome that she was at home and right away she was able to participate in her classes online.
Yeah.
The principals will give you that information, but as long as you're saying that, those swivels that we have, I think I have only one left in my office. I put all the other ones in classrooms, so that just follows the teacher around the room. I don't know if you had a chance to kind of witness and see what was going on online, but that has been like magical, because it's like you're almost running in the class as best as you can be. But Mr. Wilson and Mrs. Bussey can tell you what their expectations for teachers are, because they're different at the elementary versus the high school.
But yeah, they do. If they're in quarantine or whatnot, then yeah, that's what they're supposed to do. But we've also given the option that if they're gonna be gone for other reasons and they wanna Zoom in, they can just set that up with the teacher, and the teacher allows them to Zoom in, so that they're able to attend the class and get to work instead of having to try and make everything up once they get back.
So the teachers are basically always teaching in front of these swivels then?
No, only if they know that they have students that are going to be Zooming in. Otherwise, they won't turn that stuff on. But if they have a student that they know is gonna be Zooming in, or that should be, they'll turn it in, they'll check in. If there's nobody there, then they just go on to their teaching.
Okay.
And that's optional for elementary. For, most of the time in the upper elementary, the kids will be able to log on and get on there, but we send stuff home and then push out over Seesaw or something. But I know Mrs. Tweet was doing it, cause those kids are pretty independent when they are home. So, we're very similar to what we were last year when we were quarantined, which was not, I gave the teachers the option to Zoom with their students if they were able to. So,
I was wondering how much additional work it was for the teachers to have to set that up and to do that, because I was pretty impressed that it happened that quick.
Yeah, I mean, and they have it there and they're used to it with all the COVID stuff that we've been having to do. And I sent out an email shortly before we got hit with a bunch of cases that it looked that way, so to be prepared to, you know, have students that are Zooming in and be checking that every day just to make sure that they're there. Because, I mean, it's not perfect every time. There'll be some times where they forget to check it, or a student, you know, logs in, nothing's there, and then the teacher logs in, and, you know, the catching it at the exact time each time isn't there. But no, with this much experience, and fortunately with this much presence, especially at the high school that we've been having with the LMS and implementing, and teachers getting used to putting all of their stuff and resources on there, that it makes it it was an easier transition for us when we had to do that as a result of that.
And just to piggyback off of that, when things didn't go well, like if someone was missing or whatever, the teachers were right on getting messages back and forth to the students, and yeah, so I just kudos to the staff because it's
Yeah.
amazing that, yeah, it's like they're here.
Yeah, the elementary kids, their homework all came home on the bus. So, I mean, no kids were at school, but the bus stopped and dropped off all their homework, so.
Yeah, so, good job.
and that happens if they're gone for a certain amount of time, because it was really overwhelming, like kids in and out, like to be able to plan, like if you plan and then they come back the next day and all this stuff was sent home. So some of them we had to wait, and I know like a teacher made the comment, like, I don't know who's coming or going at this point. So I said, well, just wait it out until we hear for sure if they're out for a certain amount of time, and then we know what to plan for. So it was trickier than it was last year, because we didn't know for sure, but we got through that wave. So,
Bussy.
Can I give mine quick before,
Yeah,
so I
okay.
gotta go now
Oh,
here
great,
in about
okay.
5 minutes.
Okay.
We got our training on the investigations on the 5th of October to finalize the last portion of our training. Our Title IX was done in September, and then our investigative training was done on the 5th. I went out to Bismarck for a legislative hearing on the funding formula because Adam had messaged us and told us that they were gonna talk about Barnes County North. Well, they really didn't, so it was kind of a wasted trip. But they were referencing us for our bond issue that we never passed. but we still built the building, and now we're in a bind for funding, and the legislative, one of the comments was, well, I hope they didn't bank on that money for the rest of the time to pay their bond. So, custodial position was offered to Will Haugen, and he'll start November 1st. And there's no school tomorrow, or Thursday and Friday, super conference. And then tonight is our final home volleyball game, it's senior night. We have our District 5 seating meeting tomorrow in Edgeley at 10 o'clock. And then the leadership team, we discussed the survey that I sent to all of you. It'll be discussed during the COVID-19 updates if we want to make any changes. The only two recommendations were more cleaning, doing more thorough, and we would start that when Will comes on. They've got some ideas on going back to a little bit more of the cleaning things that they were doing more thorough. And then we had talked about family household contacts being quarantined as well. And since that time, we haven't had any positive COVID tests. So that'll be a discussion if you want to have, if you want to still quarantine, if you want to take the recommendation to quarantine household contacts or not.
Okay. Any questions on any of Mr. Severson's? Then we'll back up to you.
I'll be back in a minute.
Okay.
Depending on how quickly the board meeting goes, I might have to pop out to do the drawing for Ron's baskets out there. So that's my first thing on my list to let you know. Even though there's no school on Thursday, we do have teachers coming into the building for professional development. And pre-K and kindergarten went to the pumpkin patch. I think it was the windiest day of the month when they went. So we have lots of sleepy kids following that, but it seemed to go well, so they won't do a field trip this spring. They opted for the pumpkin patch this fall instead. Through the mental health grant, Sanford did find a backup provider, and in the process, we also found a provider who's willing to come and work with high school students too. So I was going to visit with Mike about that a little bit. I wanted to call him last night and then wasn't able to, but it sounds, we just have to make it very clear because some out-of-pocket expenses will be paid if it's elementary, it sounds, but if it's high school, out-of-pocket expenses might be on the family if it's optional. So we're still working out, fine-tuning what that looks like. If we're able to bring in that high school provider, I think it would be a wonderful opportunity for our students who need it. We have the Small Rural Schools Achievement Grant. Thank you, Lee, for looking that up. We had $6,000 and some dollars, and I've been working with Melissa Spelchin, and she's been wonderful to set us up with 3 different artists in residences, and our first one is next week. We have Morgan Wagner coming from Watford City, and she is working with our 1st and 2nd graders, and it sounds like they're doing Minecraft self-portraits and light up Halloween cards that will be donated to the Valley City Nursing Home. And so I thought I had to get approval, but from what it sounds like, I don't have to. But it was recommended that I share with you how it's going to be spent. So we are getting 3 different artists. 2nd and 3rd grade is in November, and then 5th and 6th grade is in January. And if I'm wrong, correct me. So that's what I was told. And then with the new Century Code that I sent out to you guys about the kindergarten through 3rd grade teachers and the required curriculum, Tina and I have been doing a lot of research because every single teacher who works with a kindergarten through 3rd grade student has to be trained by next July in the 5 areas of reading. Google them if you don't know what they are. And very few professional developments offer where all 5 are hit. And SEEK, which is our REA, our Education Association, has 2 of them that are offered forward. And when I visited with Mr. Severson, like the one that is more cost efficient is, I feel, more beneficial for our teachers to take. So the classroom teachers, all but Mrs. Jones, because she did a training last year, that will qualify for the 5 components of reading. So if you don't know much about that Century Code that is being implemented, I would look into it. Read it carefully, because there's a lot that is coming. We have to report on it every year through the STARS program. And if we're not proficient in it, we have to continue to report. If we become proficient according to the state, then we can skip to the 3rd year. Every 3rd year we'll have to report. So that's the one that I sent out. I don't know if I sent it out just to the curriculum committee or to all of you, but it was like,
Got it.
the curriculum, I was like, if we're looking for a new curriculum, it has to be systematic and include the 5 components of reading and early. People are scrambling right now to figure out how to get it implemented and done before July. The good part is we're doing a lot of the pieces, just not all in the same program. If you walk into our elementary classrooms, our Saxon Phonics takes care of it, our Haggerty, and our teachers are doing a lot of the other components. But I know there's room for growth in vocabulary. So.
You know what Century Code, because I think maybe you did, I don't remember seeing it, so.
I think it was probably just
It's,
curriculum
I
committee.
have it on my computer,
Okay.
Mike,
Okay.
and I could share that with you, but I can probably find it, actually, it is, and then here I am wasting time, right?
You should be able to send it to all of us, right?
Yes.
I wouldn't worry about it now.
Yeah, you can just send her out if the curriculum's the
Yep.
one that got it. Send it to the
Okay.
rest of us. That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. Yep.
HB 1388, I'm not sure on the Century Code, that's what she has on our notes from our principals. Do you find it?
Yeah.
So, and that includes the PE, counselor, music, anybody who, so I reach out to them. We're doing the training with our main classroom teachers, and I asked if Tina and I can put together professional development to do with, and they said we can make a valid argument for it. So that's what we're rolling with.
Okay.
Questions?
Anybody got questions? Not, thank you. Mr. Wilson, 712, principal.
We had College App Day at VCN on October 14th for the seniors. This was done in conjunction with Bank of North Dakota. Honor Society induction ceremony is tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Sophomores have the ASVAB test coming up on October 26th. On November 8th, there will be an informational meeting on the World Classrooms about the Washington DC trip. We are going to open it up to grades 7 through 9 for the first time. Trying to work out everything, how it's gonna work, because they've gone to no in-person meetings, I just found out. So they'll send me all the stuff, and I'll have to, they'll make a video or whatnot, and I'll have to present the video and all the other things that they'll have for it, but that'll be on November 8th. Cause he said what they were looking at for a tentative trip would be June of, let's see, June 17th through the 20th of 2023 is what they would be looking at, because they generally like to try and give 18 months to be able to raise the funds and pay for the trips, whatnot. So they wanted to get it as quickly as possible, so those families and students that were interested would be able to have the most amount of time there to pay for it. The last thing I got, received the school accountability report. We received a letter from the state congratulating us for being in the top 15%. I'll go ahead and read that. It was addressed to myself, Mr. Severson, and Mr. Schwer. The purpose of this memo is to congratulate you on ranking in the top 15 of all North Dakota public schools. DPI urges you to seek opportunities to share best practices amongst your colleagues to spread awareness about improving graduation rates, addressing equity gaps for at-risk students. Under ESSA, the U.S. Education Department requires DPI to create a school accountability report annually for public schools in the state. And this was based off of the 2021 school year. Calculated accountability to be used only as a tool for school districts to identify areas of underperformance and proactively implement school improvement strategies. It was in conjunction of when, doing the school improvement plans, all of that. This is part of what, we should be looking at and addressing as we try to go forward each year in making school improvements. The choice ready aspect is the part where we did well. It's hard to make sense of it all, and I'm going to give a more in-depth report on it at the November meeting once everything, and try to get more, because there's a few aspects that it's hard to figure how they calculated everything. But when we received that letter, it was better than receiving the bottom 20% letter, because those are the two letters that were given out. Yep. And that's all I got.
Any questions for Mr. Woodson? Not, thanks. Family Connection Report.
We started the fundraiser on the 11th of October, and it runs until the November 11th, and it's all done online, and all families should have received an email sent out from Deb from the Barnes County North Family Connection. And so we just encourage everyone to check that out. It's wrapping paper and gifts and food, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff on there. So the fundraiser will run, and our hope is to, I just forgot, we get 40% of sales, I believe it is. 40% of the sales comes directly to Barnes County North, and we're hoping to help enhance programs already going on and do some enrichment activities with STEAM, and so yeah, we're kind of excited about that. So, and that's about it.
Any questions there? Any other? Nobody else has met, have they, committee-wise? Other than policy, but that's the next one.
Yep.
Okay. Full business COVID-19 updates, continuation of services. Who's got that?
We had any new outbreak?
He
You said
just said
no,
we
you said
don't
no.
have any
No,
new
we
ones.
don't have any new ones on that. And when we met, the recommendation was to kick up the cleaning and go back to everybody school-wide doing what we were doing last year as a part of that. And then the suggestion was because the concern was household contacts. If there's a negative case in the household, should any siblings or whatnot have to be staying at home? And either side, there's instances where they do get it and where they don't get it. So that was one of the areas that we had discussed on potentially being another mitigation factor that we go to as well, just to ease some of the concerns that were there with it. Or do we go the route where if they come to school, then we require them to wear masks if they're a household contact? If they decide to come to school, that would be the other option that we could go with, is if they come to school, elect to do that, then they have to wear a mask through the duration of until the sibling would come back to school, and then they'd be without the mask. So those were what we had discussed as far as that goes.
When there is a positive COVID test, what happens then? What's the quarantine for that?
So that would go to, we get informed of that, and then the state health or county health would then be in contact with Mr. Severson, and then he would get the information on when their quarantine end date is, if they're doing the testing, because those self-tests or whatnot, county health isn't tracking those. So if it's an actual COVID test given at a clinic or wherever, then that gets reported to county health, and then county health reaches out and communicates to us.
Okay, so then is the family to get a phone call from Mr. Severson?
They get a letter. Well, they should have the letter from the county health, because most times they'll get that before we get the information, and we'll ask them what you're looking, what
I've never gotten a letter, I guess,
for.
for when Ian had COVID.
From the county.
You haven't gotten anything.
Oh.
So
Yeah,
that's why I'm
because that's-
asking.
We need that to legitimize the fact that you're actually in the quarantine, so we can get end dates, because we'll get some, tested positive for COVID, but we don't get any tests. So if it's an actual test, then county health should have you on record, or have that person on record as to having it, so if we have a question.
We've had to call and verify because
Yes.
they've been way behind with
Okay.
sending
Yep.
letters, so you don't
Okay.
always get a letter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there a standard quarantine time for a positive test?
That's what's important when they're in there and they're giving the information, because then they'll go, well, when was the first symptom? Okay, and then they'll backtrack it. So usually if a person gets it and they have to quarantine, a lot of their quarantine time is already up. So then they might only have to quarantine like 5 days or 4 days because of how they backtrack it.
And who would determine that?
The
state?
county health.
The county.
Yep.
So do we have to abide by that?
It's recommendations and guidelines.
Because after our experience, we had, our youngest was, the teacher called and said that there was pink eye in the class and we should get him checked for pink eye. So we go in and they're like, yeah, he's got pink eye and COVID. We had no idea. So right then, 2 weeks of staying at home. So then you sit there and you got this dilemma. What do we do with the other 3 kids that are in
Yep.
school? Do we want, 2 weeks is a big slap on the wrist, like nobody wants it. And the school had a big outbreak then, all the schools did, so I'm calling around. So we kept our kids at home, but 2 weeks, I mean, it's no lie, everyone here that had COVID never got tested.
Yeah.
Because you do not want a positive test, because 2 weeks is too big of a penalty. I mean, if we could just say, you get a positive test, stay home for 4 days. People would actually go get their kids tested, but when you say you gotta stay home for 2 weeks, you're never getting that kid tested.
Yeah, and because from the experience that I've had with it, that when you go in there and you get tested, they ask you a bunch of questions to get a date, a set date to determine what your quarantine period is. So if you go in there and you're sick, well, when did you start getting sick? Well, 3 days ago, because they say, well, the most contagious period was a day or 2 before you started showing symptoms. So then they backtrack 2 days, well, that was 6 days, it's 14 days, so now you're down to the 8 days, or however many it ends up being. They are the ones that set
That's
that.
exactly
Your kid didn't
how
have
it happened
Yeah.
with
Yeah,
Ian.
You never had symptoms, you know,
And
and
then it's
so,
automatic 14 days.
and we didn't, we got the home test, which I didn't know they even had that, cause the next day I took all the kids to get them checked, and you can't just get checked for COVID without an appointment.
Oh, you can at Medallis in Jamestown.
Well, I
Some
couldn't
places
find
you can
anywhere.
and some you
Yeah.
can't. It
So
depends
we
on
went to
who
the
you
So they never had
pharmacy and got a
symptoms, it was
home
14
test,
days.
so we brought the home test home and checked everyone else, and everyone was negative. So we kept them home for the whole week just to see what would happen, but, I mean, it was a big dilemma, like, if I wouldn't have been on the school board, I don't know if I'd have handled it the same. It's like, just send them all to school, you know, and that's what everyone was doing. I mean, there's no doubt about it. That kid's sick, don't get them checked, they stay home for 1 day, feeling better, yep, go back to school. And the right thing to do would be to get these kids checked and know what's going on, but no, a 14-day penalty for getting your kid tested is just too much.
The thing between last year and this year is last year, they gave us specifics. If they have 2 symptoms, they're going home. This year, it doesn't matter. It's like, you could have nothing going on and they're home. So that's what makes it difficult for us, is a kid is coughing and whereas we can't ask a parent about that child's medical history. So unless they're willing to share, we have no idea what's going on. That's what makes it so difficult, is like, I recommend, are you willing to share the child's symptoms with us so we can kind of monitor or keep track of why our students are out? And most of the time the parents share with us before we're even to that point. But we are not supposed to be able to ask.
Well, it seems like it's run its course. I mean, it was pretty
Yeah,
prevalent there for a while, but I
it-
mean, I don't know if it'll come back again, or next year, or later on, or whatever, but
And I think we're dealing, at least, okay, because my kid went through it and I took my family through it, I listened to my physician, I listened to my doctor, and he said, keep your kids home, your other family members until this date, come in and get tested. And it was 4 days after Ian tested positive, we took the family in, we all got tested, we were negative, and they said they could go, the doctor himself said they could go back the next day. Then I went in a week later for my other child who started getting this cough and a fever, and I thought, here we go, number 2. He did not have it, but that doctor had a whole different take on things. And here was the rationale that the first doctor, who I saw twice, because the first time and then taking the family in, he said it is a virus. It is gonna affect everyone differently. Some people are going to actually get it. Others are gonna have symptoms of it, but never ever have the actual COVID, because it is a virus and it changes so rapidly. And so I think common sense, and us as a school board, us as administrators, if someone asks me, I'm like, here's what I was told by a physician. You need to look at what's happening in your family. If I know my kids have allergies, so when they first started getting stuffy nose, I'm not keeping my kid home because I know it's allergies. But when Ian spiked a fever and then could hardly get out of bed, I'm like, okay, something's going on. And I think it's just common sense. I think we need
Well, and we need to encourage parents to still continue to follow the exclusion from school guidelines.
Yep.
So fever-free for 24 hours without
Yep.
medication. If your child throws up twice within an hour, they should be, like, all of those things
Still
still apply
apply.
this year.
yeah.
And that's what any doctor would recommend too, is
It's just basic common sense, what it
But
always used to be, if they're
it's-
sick, keep them
it's
home.
common sense, but kids are saying, I was really warm this morning and I'm being sent to school with, I got the purple medicine, or,
Ooh.
so what do
Yeah.
we do as educators? Like, kids aren't going to lie to us.
I think I truly believe you just keep having especially the teachers. I think when the teachers send it out and say, parents, just a reminder, if your kids don't feel good, please keep them home. I just think those gentle reminders throughout the year is all you can do.
And I'm guilty of it, because my kids get headaches all the time, so I told Mrs. Miller, my child has a headache, I did give her Tylenol this morning, and then she wasn't feeling well, I sent her home, and sure enough, she got a fever. So, like, how do you distinguish? We're not doctors,
We're
too.
not, yeah.
We're not doctors. We would love to get paid like doctors, but we're not. And we did have a lot of very respectful staff members and students. When there was a spike in the school, I do have to say, staff members, they masked up. We took safety precautions for some of our high-risk staff members and our students. We changed locations, we disinfected extra, so.
Well, I do, and I will piggyback on that as well. Another compliment to the staff. I've seen it when I've been in the school. I come 2 days a week. They're getting what am I trying to say?
Wipes.
the wipes out, they're getting the wipes out and they're handing them to the kids to wipe down their areas, so, I mean, it is happening, but I do think once we get our full-time custodian in, it's gonna probably
It'll
help even more, so. So do we have to make a decision on
Doesn't say,
anything?
is there
No, we
any
just-
wanting to make any changes or not?
I think just leave it as is. We don't
Revisit,
have a crisis, that's why I kinda asked if there were.
Revisit
longer
next
rates.
month.
I don't think there's,
Just keep running.
Yep.
Isn't something comes up.
Okay.
Not looking for any changes, so we'll just leave it as is for right now. Auditor discussion. Who wants to take that on? Lindsay, Mike?
It
Who
doesn't
wants
matter.
it?
Lindsay's
Who
more
wants
passionate-
it?
Lindsay's more passionate about it than I am, so.
So, the Budget and Finance Committee met, we had, I don't know, a fairly lengthy discussion, and I provided a whole bunch of information that I have gotten. The recommendation from the Budget and Finance Committee was to, go with Nadine Jolson LLC as a new auditor to get us caught up for the years that we are behind. The total cost for those 4 years would be $24,000.
For all of it or for the,
For all of it.
each? Okay.
And then there's a letter that was sent to you guys on
Yep.
Friday in the board packet, from Rachel Bruner at Pierce Durick to send to Harold to ask him not to turn in any of our stuff to the state. Because if that gets turned in, there's the potential that we could get charged, for that review process and for the audits if they are accepted. Which we met with, NDCEL and, Amy from there, and then Alexis from NDSBA on Friday morning, and they basically said that there's very, very minimal chance that we
This
could
gets
proceed
resolved.
with Harold.
Does he
If-
still have a license?
Yes.
Right now, as of
Yes.
Friday, he did. There is, if there ever is a chance, it would be years, is what Alexis figured.
Goes about an hour of goes on
Yep.
meeting.
And I mean, this is my folder of all the research.
So
that
it was
I've done.
4 years of stuff he never turned in?
Yes.
And
And the
we-
state
4
just,
years
and
we
the state
sat-
just caught it.
4 years we sat and listened to him.
And we did put
All the
in.
doom and gloom, and then we
Well-
walked out, we're all good.
We did put in a request to
pain.
the state to also not accept anything from him or to review it. We did that on Friday on Amy's recommendation. And then I put in an open records request this morning, no, yesterday, to, see all of the communication that they've received, they've been having with Harold regarding our school district over the last 4 years. But they replied to me and basically don't know when they can get that to me because they are very backlogged, because I'm sure everyone has been requesting that.
I think that was a suggestion,
That
everybody
was a
get an open
suggestion on
records.
Friday, so.
What was the name of the company that,
Nadine Jolson LLC. So it's a mom and son duo, and Daniel is her son, and that's what I've been dealing with.
okay.
So have you even talked to Harold since this, or
Just email. I never talk to him unless he just shows up at
did he
the school.
apologize?
He's-
In the
I mean,
emails.
Yeah, in the emails,
But
but a
he-
lot of excuses and, stories, I guess, that no one knows if they're true or not. I guess it depends on what side you wanna believe at this point.
I think there's a little blame on both sides.
Oh, for
Oh,
sure.
definitely, Harold's not totally, I mean, obviously, he's not right for doing it for 4 years, but the state has now, they've pretty much been, they stated that they will not accept no matter what he turns in. So,
And just like Mr. Wilson said, everybody gets correspondence for everything that isn't been done, right? And we haven't got anything from the state in these 4
in
years.
4 years.
Right.
From the state auditor either.
Right,
So
so there's nothing, we didn't know that.
we didn't
No.
know nothing,
Should have been done the first year.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, there's a little blame to
Both
push
sides.
there too.
Yep.
So, like Lindsay said, it depends on what side of the fence you really wanna be on.
I know he's turning them in, and I just decided to reject them now,
Well, he hasn't turned them
My
all in either.
understanding, when I spoke to the state auditor's office, and this was the receptionist that answered the phone. I mean, this was before she even knew what was going on. She said that she checked every area where they could have been submitted, and nothing was submitted for our school district since 2017. So at that point, I emailed them to her, because I said, well, can I send them in? Sure, so I did. And it was a few hours after that, she called me back and said she was informed that they can no longer accept his work. So, at that point, I feel like she was being honest in that they were not received. Because there are some districts out there whose were received, and they are more up to date than us. So they're approved through 2018 or 2019. So they were received at the appropriate time.
So where we're at right now is we need to
Approve that firm.
approve if we wanna go to the other auditing firm,
I'll make a motion to approve.
Jolson.
Yeah,
Nathan Jolson
that-
LLC.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Second by Rob.
And where are they out of?
Wapaton.
Wapaton.
What's their time frame on getting us caught up?
Since we are delayed now a little bit because of this meeting, they're hoping to start here as soon as I let them know tomorrow. They would like to schedule some stuff. Then I'm gone next week for the school boards convention, so it'll probably be the first part of November. But they anticipate that they can have 18 and 19s done by the end of this calendar year. And then if things go well, they could potentially start the 2020, 2021 one, but it might get pushed off till after tax time. So they're thinking by mid-year next year, they'd be able to have us caught up.
Do we have any idea how many new clients they're picking up with this?
When I talked to him on Friday, Daniel, he said that with taking us, they could potentially pick up 2 to 3 additional schools depending on size, and they would be at capacity. And when I talked to the state auditor's office, he had made the comment that, and this is Dan Cox at the state auditor's office, that he was comfortable with their workload that they had at that time. He said that they had, I think it was 5, but I can't find my right note. He said they currently have 11 audits and 5 of them are school districts. And because they have 2 people doing them, they're still within that 7 to 10 number, so.
Other discussion or questions? If not, roll call on approval of new auditor.
Rob.
To catch us
Yes.
up.
Michelle.
Yes.
Cindy.
Yes.
Eric.
Yes.
Brent.
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Brett.
Yeah.
Lee.
Yes. Now, Mike, you said to catch us up. Are they always gonna be our auditor, right?
We can decide that in the future.
That's what this
This
letter
is just for to catch them up.
This is to catch us up and
And
with
the
that,
current, correct?
So they would do the 18, 19 together, and then they would do 20 and 21 together. So then at the end of this current school year, we would have to reevaluate and see what we wanna do.
See if we like them, if theirs pass.
But we should be current at the end of 21.
Yes.
And the next part is the letter that Rachel wrote up.
Yep.
And that does state, how did that read?
So, do you want me to read the whole thing?
Just, I think what it is just that portion about, or you
Yeah.
could read whatever you
So,
want.
Rachel is writing this to Harold. You had the school district believe you had been submitting its audits on time as stated in the engagement letters. The school district is rightfully concerned. As such, the school district can no longer utilize your services for the 17, 18, 18, 19, 2020, or 2019, 2020, or 2020, 2021 school years, and it may reevaluate whether to engage your services for future years when the time comes. We expect you to submit all information the school district has provided to you back to it immediately and refrain from any other work for the Barnes County North Public School District. You shall therefore not submit any documents to the state on behalf of the school district. The school district will be searching for a different auditor to finish the audits for school years 17, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20, and 2020, 2021.
Do those, and then we would reevaluate where we wanna go. Caught up.
I think that's great.
So we would also need a motion if we want to send this letter as is to Harold.
I've got one question on that.
Yeah.
So Harold, we haven't been billed from Harold throughout all this,
No, we don't get billed to the state auditor as,
but were we obligated by a contract?
The engagement letters that we received, I have an engagement letter for the 2019-2020 audit and an engagement letter for the 2017-2018 audit, but I do not have an engagement letter for the other two audits. So Rachel says those are contracts, but he didn't fulfill them because he didn't meet the November deadline that he put in those.
So could he come, I mean, could he
That's
refuse
the
this
pur-
and
that's-
still submit
that's
and
the
come
purpose.
That's
after
the purpose
payment?
of this letter, and that's why we asked the state auditor's office to put a hold on our account and to freeze it and not accept anything from Harold on our
But
behalf.
he's getting this from like 62 different entities, so he's obviously, like, the cash flow's gone for him, and he's not gonna just give that up, I'm assuming.
No,
I mean,
he's-
there's gonna
Right,
be
but he-
legal recourse, they're gonna.
But if he hasn't turned anything in, there's nothing he can get cash for. That's why
No,
we
but
froze, right?
We will
Yeah.
I mean, I'd foresee we're gonna be part of a lawsuit where he's gonna come after all these entities to try to get money out of them because he's got 3-4 years worth of work into it.
But
I mean, he might not have done any of the work, but I'd assume the school district would win that, but that's probably what's gonna happen, not?
If he legitimately did the work, has the records to prove that he has it, but I don't think he has the records to
And this
it,
is
so-
also where I think the state would be coming in, because why wouldn't they tell you, don't have your stuff in? We never got it. So,
I think he's.
There's a
more
lot
going-
of
I think he's
cogs
more
in
going
this
after the
wheel.
state auditor than he's going
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
the schools.
He's gonna be our,
yeah.
those two are.
Those two are what's gonna be the,
So, letter, yes, I'll make a motion
get that
to send the letter.
those are coming off.
I'll second.
second by Cindy. Roll call there.
Rob,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Brent,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Brett,
Yeah.
Lee.
Yes. Okay, nothing on other old business, new business, superintendent eval, which is time again, and we meet on,
November
The
10th.
10th.
10th, so if I got her back second or third, give me a week,
Have you sent them all yet?
it's.
I
It
sent
was
you
in
the
your packet.
in the
Friday.
packet.
The
Oh, I thought that
evaluation was?
just a probable.
Probable, you're gonna look.
It may look like this, yeah.
Okay, so if you get that back week or so ahead of that 10th, so. If we move to board policy manual.
And we said we're gonna do that next month, so, but policy members, we need, Michelle said she couldn't make it on the 3rd of November.
Well, if we do, yeah, if we start doing, Wednesdays just aren't gonna work with confirmation, so,
What I'm thinking is you two and Chad are all on the policy and the hot lunch, and then Eric's on policy.
yeah.
So if we could do hot lunch at like 5 o'clock, and then do policy right after that at 6 to 7:30.
Yep, on which day?
That's what I'm wondering,
Oh.
that's where we gotta find a date.
Okay.
But if we just started at 5, then that way you three
Yeah.
are on both committees. You can
Yep.
just- We can just come in, if you can be here by 5, that would
Yep.
work. Because last time we went to the 3rd. Let's see, 1st and 2nd I've got games. And 4th is parent-teacher conferences. So 8th and 9th have lots of games too, so it'll have to be next week.
And what day did Kim say she can't do? Didn't Kim say she can't?
I do not
26th?
remember if I saw anything.
I saw that, I think the 26th.
As the 25th would be the only day, the 25th.
That works?
If you don't want to go on the 27th, the 25th would be the only day that would work.
I could do the 27th because he doesn't have confirmation that week. Doesn't have it tomorrow or,
Would Monday night work better? For me, it would work better, the 25th. 27th, we got that rural school summit.
25th, I'm out, because that's volleyball game in Cambridge.
Oh, that's right, that's volleyball.
okay, let me find Kim's thing to make sure.
And I can't the 26th, because I got
Oh.
basketball, 27th. I could do the 27th, but I just have to be earlier for Bismarck. And the 28th, I got basketball. That's the school board's convention, and then next week is full.
On the meeting, I have that then. So I got a question on that, because there's, the parent-teacher conference night of November 4th.
Mhm.
Why couldn't it be on that night?
I have a basketball game at 4:30.
Oh, here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just do it later in the day then.
So you wanna go at 6 and 7
When?
on the 4th of November?
I'm already here from 3 to 5 for conferences that night.
Oh,
You guys
wow.
wanna do it on the 4th? Wait, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that would be the night, I mean, if that's what we wanna do. It just have to, we'd have to start at 6 instead of 5, because I'll have that little kid's basketball game here
Okay.
till 6 o'clock.
Yeah,
We go hot lunch at 6 and policy at 7.
I'd have to check with Kim, see if she can do that day.
Well, if we send it to you, they come, she does it.
Okay. I'm good with that.
Because you get, it's the board committee, I mean, we invite.
True story.
We invite them, so,
All right, so 6 o'clock.
so hot lunch.
Hot lunch at 6,
Policy at 7.
policy at 7, okay.
That's why I don't have a calendar like that. I just wing it.
I can't wing it.
Yeah, you
Look at
can,
this,
because
look-
then you just come up
Oh
with.
my gosh, look at, no, I can't. Okay,
So, well, that's just that area is just tabled to after your meeting till next month.
okay,
Okay. Okay.
You got something every
You got
day.
deadline wrote down?
I know,
Any other correspondence, discussion?
I know, it's ridiculous.
Are we gonna have an update on, or like
That's
a
December.
review of the transportation policy?
We talked, what did we decide we were gonna talk after quarter? Was that gonna go back to committee or was it gonna come right back to the board?
Either one, I mean, we can go back to committee if we want to and see.
I'm just saying, which way was it? I know we talked about revisiting it, right?
Right.
See what was working.
Yeah, yeah.
I got one comment on that. My wife drove our kids to school today, and then on the way in, she called the school and said the kids won't need the bus in the morning or afternoon. And then in the afternoon, it was their own fault. We didn't tell the kids not to get on the bus. And, the one teacher never said anything, so the one boy got on the bus, which was fine, because my wife just went home and met the bus and picked him up. But the comment from his teacher was, you need to tell us too. Then he wouldn't have got on the bus. And that's not the way it works. Now, the parent tells the office.
Yeah, yep.
So those teachers shouldn't be telling parents to contact them, because that's
No.
not how it
No, no.
works.
Should not be.
Nope.
So that was the only issue I had with it. I mean, we didn't tell the kid, and if we would've told him not to get on the bus, he probably wouldn't have, but nobody told him and he got on the bus, and I think the teacher felt bad that they didn't relay the message to the kids, so the teacher said, just make sure you tell us. But that's not how it's supposed to work.
Well, and if you decide midstream of the school day, how do you,
Yeah,
Tell the
it's-
kid.
Everything's supposed to go through
Through
the
the
office, and it's supposed to be done before 1 o'clock, and then she sends out the email each day. I think she sends it out at about 2:30 on all the bus information
Yep.
that is there, so, and nothing that's been discussed is it also, the parent has to contact the teacher, or the student's contacting teachers, like you're saying.
Yep.
That is not what
right,
it's supposed to be. Yep.
Okay. So why don't we just stick it on for next month, so it's
Okay.
at our meeting, put it on the
Building
agenda?
and transportation
Yep,
for the full board.
for the full board.
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
Okay, we got anything else? If not, November 10th, see if we can get them evaluations back by 2nd or 3rd. Thanks.
Was that?
does that mean we're adjourned?
Yes.
Yes.
Hey, Mr. Severson.
8:06.
I have a question.
Because I was
Just because
going, okay.
it sounds funny to me, so I
Was
wanna
that
know what
what
it is.
was wanted, or did I just really screw?
No, that way I can go